If you find top talent, they expect to be challenged at top levels. If you don't invest your time in those individuals to help them pursue growth, then they're gonna leave. This is like the thing that pretty much every entrepreneur wants, right? Like, oh, I started a company, but I'm getting sucked in. I wish you can run. I could run without me, and I can go relax on a beach somewhere or something, right? Just chill, or do other things. So this is one of those things where a lot of agency owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, this is the point that they're aiming for. So, question: if you took a 1 month vacation, like right now, or starting tomorrow, what would happen to your business? Who wants to share?
There wouldn't be
That, what would you say, James?
there wouldn't be one.
There would be one, right? Why do you say that? What do you think would start happening? Like the first day, first week,
Nothing would happen. That's the issue.
nothing would happen.
Literally nothing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Um, and that shouldn't happen that way, right? It should be a nice vacation with, your spouse, your significant other, your family, your friends, right? You're hanging out on the beach and you come back, oh, everything is running smoothly. Oh, the business is growing. How amazing, right? Um, and then you can start planning your next vacation, right? But to get to that point, there's a bunch of things that you have to do, right? To be able to do that. So by the end of this session, uh, I'll give you all the basically the steps to get there. Not necessarily, you can't do this overnight. I'll be clear. Right? I don't have a magical pill for you. I can't do it for you, but it will take time. And if you follow these steps, keep at it you could do it as fast as within a year. That's really aggressive. But you'll see things that are starting to come off your shoulders, weight off your shoulders. Okay. So let's continue. So this session will be covering the problems and the risks of not doing this, what most founders really are looking for, and steps to this freedom. Okay. So risks of founder dependency: burned out and stressed out founder, slow growth and decision bottlenecks, hard to attract and keep top talent, and lower valuation for investment and acquisition. Okay, so I'll dive a little. I'll touch on some of these pieces. The first one's pretty self-explanatory, right? You're doing everything. So, and then slower growth and decision bottlenecks. Well, everything goes to you. You have to make every single call, all the way down to like the type of toilet paper that should be in your bathroom, right? Level of action. And when you're so busy doing the little things, your best talent, you're bringing on, people who doesn't want the best hires, but there's a price that you have to pay. If you find top talent, well, they expect to be challenged at top levels, right? So if you don't invest your time in those individuals to help them pursue growth and continue to level up, then they're gonna leave. They're gonna say, "Hey, I'm gonna go somewhere else. This is a waste of time. I'm not growing as an individual, and there's like very little opportunity here for me to make my life or my family's life better." So it's a domino effect. And then one of the other things is I always think about when you're starting any type of business, you want to think about if I wanted to sell tomorrow or want to sell a year from now, 3 years from now, or even 20 years from now, right? Eventually, you would have to sell your business in some way or another. Even if, let's say, you hand it over to your kids, right? You're essentially like kind of letting go. But do you want to let go of your business and sell it to, let's say, even give it away to your kids when it is just disorganized, pure nightmare, and you're dependent on the business. So that means you just have a job, a really glorified job, a high-paying glorified job, and not a fully maintainable system, self-sufficient system for the person that is taking over. Right. So then your valuation of your business is much, much, much lower to a point where people might not even want to take on because now it's a liability, right? If it's just you and it's just pure chaos, what they're really paying for at that point is your list of clients. And that right there is very low in value. Okay. Um, but common challenges of startups, fear of losing control, right? Resistance from employees, and ensuring consistency in decision making. Anyone experience any of these? Yeah, no, no, it doesn't experience that.
So we can I speak a little bit?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
So we're kind of like branching, like starting the agency, like joined agency U to kind of start doing like content and ads for local businesses, but like the core
Hmm.
business is like real estate media, so listing media, and it's something where like I've been working on slowly but surely, like kind of walking myself out of that side. And it's just like
Mm,
every once in a while I have to like jump back in because I'm like, how did this like not get done properly? How did this get sent to a
and
client? Like as I step out of
yeah,
things, I'm like trying to figure out how to like keep things functioning and working and like keep consistency in the product and in the communication, but then also like not have to be the one doing everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You keep getting sucked back in, and then it just be careful of the side effects of doing this for a long period of time. Um, you you may develop resentment to your own people, right? Like, hey, and then I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying in general, like as an agency owner, you might develop these feelings of like no one else can do it better than I can because I'm just the every time I sign something, this whole thing repeats itself. Okay. And and you always want to think about it, it doesn't have to be that way. There's plenty of other companies that are successful in scaling and growing. And so it is possible. You gotta push through it, but not just push through pure energy and effort and time. It's the right strategies. And we'll touch on those later on in the slide deck. So role of talent acquisition in scaling your business. Uh, why this matters. So building a team. You can't scale a business by yourself. Okay. I like AI is not good enough. Okay. You can't just go train an AI system and just say, hey, AI system, just run my whole business for me. No, you can't. It's not there yet. I don't think it's gonna be there for the next probably 30 years. Okay. So you have to hire people. You really have to hire people. And the um, and strong team ensures smooth operations without constant founder involvement, right? So you have to just bring on a team. So key elements of talent acquisition for independence, they focus on self-sufficient, adaptable talent aligned with company culture. So you want to think about company culture, and you want to invest in roles that support long-term sustainability, not just your immediate needs. So it's common that I get, I get this request almost probably like once a month, if not like once a week. Like, Dave, help. I need an editor. Okay. When do you need it? Yesterday. What? Like, did you not forecast this? You don't, like the volume coming in and stuff like that. It's like, no, 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 I need it right now. Okay, we'll do our best. We'll move as quickly as possible, but understand that it doesn't, it's not like overnight we can place someone on your team that understands like not just the technical part. That technical part is easy. It's about understanding your organization's culture, understanding your clients' needs, and that takes time. Okay? And understanding your processes and SOPs. So transitioning from micromanaging to trusting a compatible team. right? These are all the things that to factor in: client relationships, retention and upsells, onboarding processes, issue resolution, founder freedom, like ultimately getting to founder freedom. All these pieces, you're probably doing it yourself, right? Is there any one of these pieces you've tried to outsource or delegate?
We've done little bits of, so I mean, I've done pretty good on outsourcing a lot of the fulfillment on the real estate side.
Hmm.
But I still do a lot of the client communication. We don't actually even have an onboarding process, which we probably should.
Yeah. That will be messy later on. And then you'll start getting the emails of or there's just chains of emails, right? Of like, oh yeah, client, I need this, this, and this. And the client will say, why didn't you ask me this in the beginning? Right? So that could be a whole fiasco there.
For the content and ads side of the business, we do have onboarding.
Hmm.
But for the real estate side, it's really like it's pretty much just order taking.
Okay.
But then I do have people who are like, how do I download this? I'm like, and then
Hmm.
the email, of course, has like a Google Doc with Loom videos attached to it, and I get reports on when the Looms get opened, and I think out of like 150 jobs, they've been opened twice.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about the clients, right? Not opening the document.
Yeah, well, they're like, how do I do this? I'm like, there's a document attached to the email that has how to do literally everything, and like
Yeah.
there, there's like 15 5-minute videos all like titled on what the task is, and nobody
Yep.
ever opens any of them.
Yeah, yeah. So, who knows the answers to this? How many touch points do you need in sales for it to close? Anyone
I
know?
think the average is 7, right?
Yes, 7. So that number, I mean, sometimes in sales like 11 touch points, right? That's kind of how I put that perspective. When I send like a new process, when I teach a client our process, our workflow, they don't really get a good handle on it until it's been addressed 7 times. So I might talk about it in a call, I send an email out, remind them multiple times. Then finally, on the seventh time, most clients will get it. And that's why I have my own EA. Whenever they email me about like, hey, where's this one file? My EA will direct it back to our CSM, which is in charge, and they have a templated response, or with the link. Here you go. It's here. And oh, by the way, and when I'm redirecting it, I let the client know, oh, this is best handled by one of our CSM and CSMs is Zina. So I would say, this is best handled by Zina. I tag her in the email and I forward it back to her. So constantly I'm redirecting the stuff coming in to the right person in the organization. So not only am I empowering my team members, right? I'm not robbing them of their responsibilities. I am also at the same time teaching our clients, this is our process, this is our workflow. And because I have an EA, I'm not frustrated and annoyed by our clients because the EA is doing all the work. Right? So, but if you have to do all the work, and of course, it's going to be at the most difficult time. You have back-to-back meetings, or maybe you're trying to put out a fire, and then all there is like one of your clients like, "Hey Tyler, can I just get this document?" And at that point, like you've hit your limit, right? And that poor client's gonna get the brunt of the heat, right? I'm not saying you're gonna do that, but like I don't want to Hulk out, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I mean, I have a VA who handles a lot of like the she does all of our cold outreach and then she
Nice.
delivers to the clients and then she's in the phone system, so she's decent about sending stuff out. But she's definitely gotten better. Like I had a client, like there was finally an issue where like she message came in from the client, she handled it, sent it out, got it sent and like sent it back to the client, and like I didn't have to touch it. And I was like, ah, that
Yeah.
was. Should we do this all the time, please?
Yes, yes, yes. When I see those scenarios, it brings tears to my eyes, tears of joy. All right, because that means it's like, oh, I am finally free from that. Right. So for those that are in this call that don't have an EA, Tyler, right there, what Tyler has just said, That's why you need an EA. All right, your EA will be able to do that and take all that and free you up, right? All that responsibility off your shoulders, and so that way you can focus on the key pieces. So this is an example. Our CSMs take on sales calls now. So there was a new project opportunity, and Zaina just responded like, "Hey, hi Mike, thank you for reaching out to help us better understand your goals and offered tailored recommendations. Please take a moment to complete our business snapshot form." So for us, we use a lot of forms in our organization. It helps with structure of data, making sure that we have all the pieces that we need, right? Ever been to a doctor's office for the first time? Right? Remember that new like patient onboarding sheets? Like you probably fill like two, three sheets out, and then there's a HIPAA form, and there's all these other forms, right? Um, so we try to collect as much as possible, and every question, every form, intake form has a clear purpose where you don't want to waste our clients' time. So there's a purpose to everything that we ask, and then it is utilized in different parts of our organization. Okay, from operations to our accounting team. And also, what we're starting to do is feeding that data into our AI system to build a better documentation and better onboarding experience. Okay, so that's later on in your scale journey, in your growth journey. You don't want to automate and start implementing all these crazy AI systems right now until you have you know the basics, right? You have to know how math works before you use a calculator, right? Um, Another thing our CSMs do is implement processes and accountability structures for consistency. Our CSMs do a monthly follow-up with our current clients, and they ask them, "Hey, would you like to jump on a call this month to discuss some of the points?" In this case, this is the email after the call, and then so there's the key takeaways, and then the to-do items afterwards. So our CSMs are automatically doing that, which is stuff that I used to do, right? I used to be on a call. I try to follow up with clients, but I could not do it on a consistent monthly basis because there was just too many things going on, too many pots and pans on the stove, and things were starting to get burned. Anyone heard of Dan Sullivan, the author? Because he wrote a few great books.
Who, not how.
Yes, Who Not How. Yes, yes. And in one of the books that he talks about is actually his coaching program is the four freedoms of entrepreneurs. Okay. This is what entrepreneurs really want. This is the four freedoms. Freedom of time, right? Spend time doing what you really enjoy. Freedom to pursue your other interests outside your business. Okay. Freedom of money, right? Unlimited earning potential for your hard work and innovations, no restrictions on how much you can keep. And then freedom of relationship. Work with people you genuinely connect with. Spend more time with those who appreciate you as much as you appreciate them. And freedom of purpose. Your company is more than a career. Make it a vehicle for your values, ideals, and purpose. Create wealth, opportunity, and impact in communities worldwide. So, do you agree with Dan? The four freedoms? Right. You kind of boil down to like I'm curious, like what is everyone's reasoning for starting their own agency? Why are you here? Why did you start your agency?
Largely income, but also like I remember being the company that I was at before I started my own thing was like I remember getting to like the top of where it was a family run company, and I remember hitting this point where it was like one of the top performing sales reps, and it was like great, like all of upper management's family, like there's no getting in. So it's like I
Hmm.
kind of hit the ceiling where I was like, and then the management position was taken by one of my really good friends who wants to be there for like 30 years. So I'm like, there's nowhere to go up Like there's
Mm.
nowhere to go here.
Yeah. Yeah. So you touch on money, freedom of money, and you touched on bit of freedom of purpose, right? It's just like, okay, well, what's the purpose of being here? They're gonna cap me, right? There's no growth opportunities. You know? Eventually, money, I mean, maybe, at least what I can say for me is that when I first started, it was about money, and I felt that I I could do more by starting a business than to climb the corporate ladder. That's kind of how I started in my career. And but over time, as the agency stabilizes and it's more consistent, revenue, income is more consistent. Now we're looking at, time is more valuable than money, and relationships and purpose. There are people when I talk to, like jumping on a call, if I don't think they're a good fit for us, or if they're a pain in the ass to work with, like, let's be honest, right? I said, no, sorry, no thanks. Right? I don't think we're a good fit, and generally mean it, and just part ways, because I don't want to torture myself. I don't want to torture my team, right? And we're in a really nice position, to be in, right? But it takes time to get there. So let's kind of like get into the thick of things and say, all right, how do we get there? So steps to make your business run without you. So I explained all of the kind of like the context behind it. These are the problems. These are the freedoms that we want to get to. Now, how do we get there, right? How do we achieve these things? Number one, determine what you want, okay, out of your life and business. Okay, this is super critical, right? Our mission to empower and transform businesses to their fullest potential through the means of strategy, expertise, and technology, right? Help businesses win. And then once you know what you want, what your values are, right, and your mission and your vision, then you can define future involvement in your business. Like, how much time do you want to be committed to this organization? And and the thing is, it's that I'm sure you have other responsibilities. If you have a family, you have kids, right? There's those responsibilities, and so make sure there's always that balance, right? You can't just invest everything into one thing. But at the same time, you want to be able to meet certain objectives at a restricted time. So there has to be a level of sacrifice, right? But if you don't write it down, if you don't document it, you're not gonna be able to get there. So realistic a timeline for transitioning out of daily operations. What are your working hours like currently and then in the future? And then set aside complete off hours. And then another thing too, you can start doing is create a founder dependency log for the next 2 to 4 weeks. Write down every task, the only things that you can do, the you think you only you can do, you really shouldn't be doing, or what can be delegated, automated, or completely eliminated. Okay, so start logging. It's like almost like logging your calories. You're counting your calories. You want to kind of keep track of what's going on. And then if you don't have an EA, bring out an EA. Start building that process. If you don't have SOPs, if you don't have documentation, you want to start doing that. And then because you have the dependency log already filled out, the transition to heading off, delegating to the EA, super easy, right? Everyone following so far? Can you just get a quick one or a thumbs up? Right,
I have a
right?
quick question for you on the
Yes.
EA thing.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard different perspectives that a lot of people call their administrative assistants executive assistants when there's really like an executive assistant in theory should be someone who's like a partner at the executive level who can like make high level business decisions where like a lot of people have an administrative assistant and just kind of call them an executive assistant because they're their assistant.
That's a good question. So I don't uh I don't bring on administrative assistants, because when I think of administrative assistants, they're more of like, oh, just here's a set of tasks I need you to do, follow these instructions, and just do it. An executive assistant is someone that has a lot of critical thinking abilities, and are able to implement things that are outside of the standard SOP and even create additional processes to help the executive, right? You are the executive CEO. You're the CEO of your organization, right? So that's kind of how I look at things. And yes, the executive does help you with calendars and emails and everything else, but they're also because of the dynamic, it's not like an executive for a Fortune 100 or Fortune 1000 company, right? But they're an EA for your small agency, maybe 1 to 20 people in your company. Um, so you still need that EA more than an administrative assistant. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So with that, your EA should free up a lot of your time, 10 to 20 hours weekly. And then that way you can focus on your growth and key areas. Like another thing to add, every morning I talk to my EA, and it's not about like, oh, what's my schedule today? Yes, we talk about that, but I bounce ideas with my EA. Like, hey, what if we do this? What about this? Have you thought about this? Okay, and then she's like my sounding board, and then she helps me execute on those things. Okay. And that's something administrative assistant doesn't do. You wouldn't really have maybe a morning call with an administrative assistant, but for your EA, you would. So then the next piece is technical hires, right? Start hiring your technical roles. So it might be a video editor, graphic designer, social media manager, UX, UI. One thing I see a lot of agency owners do, and I myself did this, I hired with technical hire first, and then I hired an EA second. If you've done that already, it's not the end of the world. Just hire your EA as soon as you can. But technical hires, the problem with hiring a technical hire first is that you don't have because in a small agency, if it's just you and one technical hire or two technical hires, you still have to do marketing and sales and other like reviews, operational reviews and project management and client support and stuff like that, right? Well, if you don't have help on some of those other parts with an EA helping you, and on top of that, your technical hire, if they're new, they're bombarding you with questions and requests like, hey, what do you think about this? What about that? Can I get approval for this? Oh, in this scenario, the SOP isn't as clear. So now you're adding more work for yourself. So it's best to have an EA take free up some of your time, and then that freed up time, you then bring on a technical hire to help you on some of these other pieces, the actual technical work. All right, does that make sense? Any questions here? Good. Okay, thank you. Implement org chart. Stop hiring reactively. Map out your ideal organization. Define roles and responsibilities. Hire for gaps instead of offloading random tasks. Like, oh yeah, we work on like for example, I'll just use an example of, oh yeah, we need these web pages. But we should just bring on a full-time hire for to build out web pages. Well, the thing is, if building websites and web pages is not your core offering, you're really better off hiring, let's say, a freelancer or partnering up with an agency to do that, and you're better off investing your time bringing on, let's say, a social media manager if that's your core, right? Core service. Standardized decision making with frameworks, right? Develop SOPs so your team can handle issues without asking you, right? And then this kind of touches on some of the things that Tyler you mentioned you experienced before, like you delegate and then after a while there might be some fires, going off or some smoke, right? I'm like, what's going on? Well, if there is no SOP to document like they're following, then addressing that, figuring out what the problem is much more difficult. But because if you have an SOP well documented, you can then have conversations like this. I would, let's say let's say his name's Ben, right? I would say, hey Ben, I noticed the client didn't receive the update in time. It was 2 days late. What happened, Ben? And then with an SOP, Ben and I can say, oh, well, I was stuck on step 5 in the SOP. But oh, okay. What's wrong with step 5? And then we can add additional steps between 5 and 6, make adjustments, so then that way, we can't go back in time, but moving forward, we can continuously improve these SOPs. So now our language is SOPs, our language is steps and processes and avoiding mistakes. So constantly we're improving think of SOPs as your recipes, right? So you're constantly improving your recipes every time you make that dish. Okay. So customer issue, prefined escalation process, financial decision, present budget thresholds, hiring decisions, standardized interview and approval processes. These are all SOPs that we've created. And then finally, letting go. Okay. Identify tasks to delegate. So you already have that. You've trained up an EA. You trained up your technical hires. And you're slowly letting go some of these other pieces. So I want you to let go more and more and more. I want you to get to the point. Here's one, and you're shifting from doing to leading, right? So the freedom, the new time that you have now of not doing that thing, I want you to convert that time into being a mentor. Convert that time in being a really good coach or like a teacher or like a professor. And spending like at least half that free time on training that person, that individual or their team to be fully self-sufficient of, if they ask the question, what would Tyler do? What would, James do? What would Chrissy do? What would, a Civic do? Right. And Lauren do? They would know and they would answer it without you even being there. And they're 80% accurate. You want to get the training to that point. And then finally, this is tough. This is one little trick, and you can do it if you want to rip the Band-Aid off now, rip it off right now. Uninstall your program. Uninstall it off your laptop, off your MacBook, off your phone. You're not allowed to use it. If you're an editor, no Adobe Premiere, off. If you're a designer, no Photoshop, right? No Canva, right? So when you have no choice but to talk to someone on your team to help you, then your whole mindset will shift, and you have to build systems to accommodate without the program. Okay, so most people aren't ready to dive in the deep end, but I've actually forced my CSMs at one point. They start off as designers, and at one point I said, you have to uninstall your Adobe products. Right? You're a CSM now. You're not a designer anymore. So instead, I need you to teach and encourage and promote and train and lead our design team, our dev team. But you cannot have that program on your system. So what that also means is that it forces you or the person that is uninstalling the program, it forces the individual to ask better questions, right? Like, explain to me, right? What is happening? I don't have the program. I can't look into it and just jump into it and figure it out. I don't have time for that anyways. But I need you to communicate with me and get it to the point where I fully understand what you're doing. Right? Walk me through it. Sometimes I might need to jump on a Zoom call and do a screen share. They might need to send me like a Loom video. Okay. But when you don't have the program and you don't have the ability to just jump right in, you are forced to delegate and communicate in a way different way. So there's that. Letting go. Establish KPIs and accountability systems, measure results by setting KPIs, setting tools like dashboards for performance tracking, and conduct regular leadership meetings. So one of the things that you might not like doing, especially if you're like more creative, is analytics, KPIs, numbers, right? It's a pain in the butt. So because you have to constantly, consistently collect that data, right? So that's where you can ask your EA, ask your CSMs to consistently collect that data. It might be on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis. So when it's time for that meeting or for time for you to review it, You can schedule a time. Like just right before this call, I was talking to our accountant. You know, we have a full-time accountant now that handles all our invoicing, financial forecasting, budgeting, and we're planning for our annual raises for the team. Okay. Yeah, you're right, Chrissy. It was one of the best hires ever because I personally hate doing reconciliations, bookkeeping, and I wanted to have a really good handle of our accounting. And I'll be honest, you know what my way of measuring our finances was? I looked at our bank account. Okay, I looked at our checking account to be exact, and savings account. Like, do we have enough cash in our bank account to buy this, to spend money on this? Right? I didn't forecast. I didn't get that until I started getting help. So in the meantime, if you don't have a full-time accountant, you ask your EA to help track all these KPIs, accountability systems. You ask your CSMs to track all this because you can't improve on something that you don't measure. Okay. So and it doesn't have to be you know everything all at once. Start with the most basic KPIs, right? It might be um on the sales side, it might be um leads, your close rates, so your EA can track that. On the operational side, how long does it take from the point of onboarding to basic completion of a project? And then you have maybe phases, and then you can kind of start seeing some of the bottlenecks. And when you start seeing some of the bottlenecks, I first start off with, are there any processes that we can improve on? And to reduce the bottleneck. If not, then it might be some additional, automation systems. And then finally, we bring on additional talent to help optimize and smooth out that process. But without the data, it's gut. It's just a gut feeling right now. Okay. So you want to reinforce that your basically your gut feeling with real data. Next piece is introduce a coaching and problem-solving culture, right? No spoon feeding. Train your team to find solutions. Okay. My bad habit in the beginning was, okay, well, here's the answer. This is how you do it. Oh, I updated the template. Here, take the template. Here's the file. Take it and just send it over, right? Instead, you want to ask these types of questions. What do you think we should do? Right? What other options have you considered? And what would you do if I weren't available? Right. So just have the individual start thinking. And when you start asking those questions, like a broken record, literally a broken record, every time they're going to ask you, they're going to think, oh, yeah, yeah, James and Tyler or Christy, they're going to ask me these questions again. Might as well be prepared for it. Right. So it's kind of like a developmental thing. And the crazy thing is, it's like this stuff is really, if you have kids, it's the same thing as parenting. Right? You don't want to spoon feed your kids. In the beginning, when they're babies, yeah. But the nice thing is you're not raising babies, right? You're mentoring professionals, right? So you're not here to spoon feed them. You're here to mentor and support them as a coach and empower them to do their best work. And then there's this 1-3-1 rule. And thank you, Chrissy, for engaging. I'll cover this and I'll go over that. So what is 1-3-1 rule? The 1-3-1 rule, let's see. I'm gonna change this to edit. I use it so much. I actually have a text expander on this. So let's see. Hopefully it doesn't break the formatting. Semicolon 1-3-1. There you go. This right here is the 1-3-1 rule. Oop. And so all I have to say is like, what's the 1-3-1 on this? And what does that mean? When someone asks me, like, hey, Dave, I need help on this client interaction, right? Like, the client's asking for this. Well, what's a 1-3-1? Well, that's a problem. That's one. Give me 3 viable solutions. A, B, C. Okay, cool. And then finally, the third one is, you give me the suggestion. Like, what do you think before I help you? What do you think of these three is the best choice? That's the 1-3-1 rule. And with that, I can better help you. I get more context. And the person that is the closest to the problem should be solving that problem, not the CEO and president of the company. When the issue is like directly to a client, handling maybe a video issue or a marketing issue or a website page issue, right? I'm not saying I won't help. I'm here. I'm happy to help, but help me help you, right? So 1-3-1, that's our framework. So Christy said, I have a client that has an affordable course on how to create a coaching culture in your organization. Happy to share it. Yeah, feel free, share it. Love to see that. All right. Anyone have any questions here? No? Good? Okay. So let's move over here. Automate and document key processes. All right, to me, this is a super fun process. My background is in technology. I have a software engineering degree. This is like the nerdy stuff that I love doing. But for me, my problem is jumping too early into this. And I've seen other agencies do this too. They jump right in and they don't have the processes in order. So what happens is the automation makes it worse. So like, oh shoot, all of a sudden this process we need to change again, but the automation is triggering every single time, and you got to fix all the automation that's supposedly supposed to save you time, but now it's creating more work than it is. So what you want to do is run your processes at least 30 days, right? Or at least 5 to 10 times manually. Then you look at those patterns and you see, all right, this is a repeatable task, repeatable system. Then you start automating components of it, not the whole thing at once, right? Don't chew the whole apple, like one bit, but small bites, right? So small bits. So for example, some of the automations might be auto email and notifications based on status, meeting reminders, automations, onboarding processes, invoicing reminders. These are all automations. So for example, meeting reminders, we have it all built out and go high level. And so when someone books a meeting with me, depending on the type of calendar, let's say it's a sales call, it would automatically send out a video sales letter with email with a video sales letter. It will automatically remind first of all, it sends out the notification of, hey, just want to confirm, thank you for scheduling a meeting with us. Just confirm the date, and it's a text reminder and an email. Then I would say, I think it's like a day before, there's another reminder, and then an hour before, there's another reminder. So to minimize any like no-shows for meetings. Onboarding process, same thing. Client signs up for basically our services. Let's say they're looking for an EA in the Philippines. As soon as they put in their information, their credit card, it moves into a page with a video explaining the onboarding process, and then would ask the individual to fill out the form and schedule an onboarding call. And if that doesn't happen, there's additional reminders to remind the individual, because we can't move forward until the form is filled out with the necessary information. So instead of a human being or in my EA, I don't want to torture my EA, right? Instead of a human being constantly reminding because a client, the email got lost or they got busy, right? It's not their fault. We let an AI system, or not AI, a robot or an automated system, right, do all the reminders for us. But you can't get to that point until you have a process. You have it documented. Okay. So you can truly plan it out, and you've tested it out 5 to 10 times. Okay. Uh, so that's the automation piece. Now, as I'm all about hiring people, but I focus on processes procedures, SOPs, and um, proper like training, so our team can do more with less than hiring more people. There's complexity. It's not like you hire 10 people, all of a sudden your company gets better. It's actually it could implode. So you want to focus on your processes first, training for your own team. Because I look at our organization not like some massive organization. I look at us as like a firefighting team or a SWAT team. Okay. Everyone is well trained. You don't want to fight a fire when your colleague is now stuck in the burning building. And not only do you have to save the people in the burning building, you have to save your colleagues, right? You don't want that to happen. So with that, we're constantly focused on processes and training and training and training. And then if we've done all that, then we bring on additional and we figure out what the gaps are. Like we might not have expertise in this area. We might hire a contractor, hire a consultant to train us, or bring on part-time or full-time hires to support our core. And then anything that's not a part of our core, we would hire or partner up with other agencies to do that. So for example, like we're on the web side, we focus on web development. When it comes to like any digital marketing, social media, video content, we refer all of that out. And it ends up being a huge win-win for us and for our partners too. So here are some additional tips, right? Run a founder-free test. Step away and see what breaks. I'm not saying step away for a whole month. I know, like, Chris is like shaking, like, oh my God, I can't do it. Step away for 24 hours. Start with that. Then 2 days, and then 3 days, then a week, right? Because as soon as you step away and you come back, I want you to document everything, like things that blew up, hopefully not blow up, but things that like didn't get done, didn't progress, didn't move forward. Have a debrief, right? Just like in the military, you go about like, hey, what's going on? What happened here, right? We're not here to blame anyone. We're here to prevent these issues from repeating itself. So you have a debrief. So you debrief that with your team and say, all right, and then you ask the question. You don't provide direct orders, okay? You ask questions, you inquire, like, hey, how can we avoid this from happening in the future? Right? What can we do as a team? Do we need more resources? Do we need to hire more people? And if we do, okay, well, do we have the revenue, the income to support that? And if we don't, who's responsible for marketing and sales? Well, chances are right now it's probably you, right? So you need to step up your game. But other than that, like if it's other items, like, okay, what do we do? Can we assign an owner for this piece? And then the next time you do another test, this thing doesn't happen again because there's SOPs, there's things, but there's something else, right? Something else that happens. So you keep repeating this, right? And hopefully you'll get to the point where you truly can go on a trip, step away. Because here's the unfortunate things is that the positive thing is like this is a controlled test. You let your team know that, hey, I'm going on a vacation. All right, yeah, what's the case, right? Or staycation, right? I'm stepping away, right? Um, and so they're prepared. They have that mindset. But then I've heard so many times where the business owner they get sick. They, through, stress or an accident happens, right? They got cancer, right? Whatever, right? They're going through chemo now. So now what? You have no choice, right? If you're the agency owner that is experiencing that. So it sucks, right? So you don't want to live on the edge, right? So have these controlled tests. Create a crisis playbook. Like, hey, what happens in these emergencies, in these scenarios? Who's the main contact person? Hopefully it's not you or not just you. Just like if you go to a doctor's office, they ask, like, what is your emergency contact, right? Encourage peer accountability, right? You want to start shifting a reliance on you to team-led problem solving, right? They're relying on each other. But in the beginning, it's just you, maybe an EA, okay. But when you start hiring your second and your third and your fourth, That's when you get to do this. That's the perks of this. uh, Host a vision workshop. We usually have we have a team meeting, a company meeting, and then also I have one-on-ones. So I talk about vision a lot now. I talk about like direction, where we're headed, what our next quarter, 6 months, 12 months to 2, 3 years, like what does that look like? And so if you as the leader of your organization, as the president, and you have no clue where to go or what you're doing or what's going to happen in the next 12 months, what you think your team members know? They're going to come up with that for you? No, that's not happening. Not happening, right? So that's why like you have to know what you want. You have to communicate that and then reiterate that not just 7 times. We're talking every single day, every single time it's just almost like, oh, they should get to the point where like, oh, it's James talking about that again, it's Tyler talking about that again, oh, it's Christy talking about that again, right? It's like, oh, is this again, right? But it's in their heart now. They know like immediately like, oh, this is where we're going. And cross train, ensure no single person, including you, is a bottleneck. So you start cross training, you start, testing. Sometimes there are projects that we work on. We know it's going to double our workload, like double our work time to complete. But it's okay. I would rather have that than to be dead in the water. If that one individual that knows this process, only person that knows it, is not available, then we're dead in the water. So I would rather double our efforts, double our time to complete, than to have that scenario happen. Right? If you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs, out there, there is a certain level of paranoia. You have to have a level of paranoia, or else, because you have to look at the stats, right? And it's been a while since I looked at it, but I don't think it changed that much. In the first year, 90% of the businesses will fail in the first year. So only 10% survive. And of that 10% in 5 years, 90% of those businesses will fail. Okay. So if you're not paranoid, if you're not looking at this, like I'm sorry for freaking everyone out, like, oh my God, Dave, but you want to constantly think about that, have that little bit of paranoia. But eventually that concern, that paranoia, it won't be as intense because you have systems and team members and foundational pieces all put together. So you have this huge, let's say you have a huge war chest, of savings. You have a ton of recurring revenue, right? You have a ton of clients. So what if you lose 20% of it? It sucks, but you're not going out of business. But if you have one client and you lose that one client, it's game over, right? You start from scratch and you're in trouble. So the cross train. So, question for everyone. So, what is your next move? Delegate like a boss or stay trapped in the do it all cycle? Like, what's everyone planning to do?
Just continue delegating, man. It's scary. If I may open up, the last two, I started my agency like 4 months ago. We had a very fast growth.
Hmm.
I just joined the agency like 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, and kind of like started operating the agency OS. We got to 14 clients. It got kind of overwhelming. Brought on our client success, and just this transition itself. I felt like I started lagging on a lot of answers, and just I was not on top of it anymore, Dave. And this month we lost like 7 clients.
Oh man, that's rough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it was pretty rough. It was
yeah,
definitely
yeah.
rough. So like I'm trying to basically like power back up right now. I feel like we got the agency OS system down now. My client
Mm-hmm.
success is fine. Just hired an appointment setter, a new one. She's a rock
Mm-hmm.
star. But it's like that kind of like broke me a little, but it's fine. I know this is part of the process. Like we grew very fast.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I don't know if you. I guess it's just basically like delegating and just keep just getting it off of my plate,
Yeah.
one step at a time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any suggestions when it comes? Have you ever had any like moments like that or experienced anything
Oh,
like that where it was just a big,
13 years in this agency. Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. I've lost like clients that were like I think it was like 40 or 50% of our business. Like I think this one I remember this one big client and thankfully I kind of had, kind of an idea, but it still hit me like a train. I think that client was like 60K, yeah, 60K a year, type of
wow.
client. And just lost it overnight. They're like, "Oh, sorry, we don't they got acquired by another company." And things happen, right? They got
Yeah.
acquired by another company and they didn't need our services anymore because they have their own internal team now with this new company. And it wasn't because it was I don't, it wasn't even because we didn't provide good service, right? And that's the frustrating thing. Like we worked our ass off, right, to deliver amazing service, and all of a sudden the rug is pulled under us because they got bought out, and
Mm,
we didn't know all the little details, and
mm,
and when and so one of the lessons that I've learned too is that I like the old adage was go for the whales, go for the big accounts. Okay.
mm,
And what I've shifted to is I mean, big accounts are okay. It's all about a ratio. But I don't always want to chase the big whales because there's a price that you pay. So they say, oh yeah, it's less work. It's a less work for, a $10,000 client versus $1,000 clients. True. But it's getting hit by a train when you lose a $10,000 client, right? So it's that balancing act of the ratio, but also you sometimes it's difficult because these two different types of clients require two different processes and systems too. The larger clients will require like more hands-on, more white glove service, and they don't want to fit into your system. They're more demanding. They demand you to fit in their mold, their system. And you, as the entrepreneur, as the leader, you have to make that decision. Do you allow that? If not, you have to be okay to saying no. Okay.
mm-hmm.
Um, and and so and also to help you with like the growth stuff, companies have gone out of business by growing too fast. That's called
Yeah.
imploding, right? Not exploding. You're imploding from the inside, right? It's just like
Yeah.
too fast. And then next thing you know, clients are complaining. And I've had times where I was so, I was in the thick of things. No matter how many hours I put in, it felt like I was drowning. I just got too deep. And it's almost
Yeah.
like I was in water and I'm drowning, and people were just pouring more water over me at the same time, right? Like, oh, hey, while you're there, let me just kick you a few times too. And it felt like that. And it got to the point where I just woke up in the morning. I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to answer
Yeah.
calls. I don't even want to deal with any of this. Why did I get myself into this mess? And then I snapped out of it and said, all right, I have to take, what's working now is not working. I need to kind of reframe everything. I'm burning myself out. So it's pretty much like right now you're going through a reset, right? It's painful. It's a reset, but now like, okay, uh, you have the experience now of what not to do. And then you, with the help of agency U and the other coaches, you can kind of strategically plan it so every time, this is a balancing act, right? Of forecasting your sales and your revenue, and then hiring people, right? Building up your team. And then at the same time, you want to have a small percentage, a small like war chest. And that war chest, like a rainy day fund, I would have 4 months. Okay. 4 months. Try to game for 4 months. So at that point, you have this feeling of like, you know what? I can take on more risks. If this doesn't work, okay, sucks. I lose my war chest, maybe a half of my war chest or rainy day fund. but at least you've learned from that and you keep going and you're not so focused on, the last thing you want to get to in the position of like, oh, I have to make the sale or else we're not going to be able to make payroll, right? Or the other hand is like, oh my God, I don't want to make any more sales because we're under capacity or over capacity. We can't take on more work. Um, so in the beginning is the hardest for an agency owner because there's no team. It's basically you and maybe one or two other people. When you start getting to like 10, 15, 20 people, whole different world, right? But at the same time, you're responsible for 10, 15, 20 people, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
does that help?
Yeah,
See?
cool.
Okay, cool.
No, it definitely helps, bro. It definitely
Yeah.
helps. I do feel the pressure, but I love it. I love pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. So just talk it out, and talk to the coaches. And sometimes it's like your answer is right in front of you. But so you have to talk and bounce ideas. That's why, I don't know if you have an EA, and I'm a big proponent of an EA. I bounce my ideas with like my EA is like my therapist. All right. I bounce ideas with her and she lets me know, like, yeah, Dave, that's a little crazy. What about this, and this? Like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Right. And then boom, she helps me take action. So if you don't have an EA, bring out an EA. And then of course, talk to the coaches. So what other questions? Any questions? Oh, let's see. We got some posts in chat. Um, so, Chrissy, you said, I currently have three on my team, but struggling with cleaning up our systems and processes. That's why I joined the agency. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's great. Notion is great. We use a different project management system. We use Smart Suite. There's so many tools. As long as your team is using it and implementing it, that's the key. And Chrissy, yeah, thank you for sharing. That was our December and January. Lost two big clients, drastically reduced revenue. Yep, had to fire two clients for skipping out on thousands. Yeah, can anyone beat this one? Our accounts receivable over 30 days, I think it was like over 60 days, was at 60K. That's our record. That is, I mean, not a good record. Okay, you don't want to beat that one. But that's why we had to bring on, a full-time accountant. And as soon as we brought out that full-time accountant, she handles our invoicing, our collections, forecasting, reconciliations, bookkeeping stuff, and constantly checking our expenses. All that, not a worry anymore. So certain roles is like you just need to know like where you're at. And also the thing is, it's not the fault of the client, right? It's like, yeah, it sucks that they're not paying, but majority of the time, it's not that they're doing this intentionally. The chances are they forget, like, oh yeah, I forgot because maybe your system doesn't accept reoccurring revenue or reoccurring charges. Um, or they're just busy. And then in very small scenarios, they're financially in trouble. So if that's the case, then you want to spend time and say, hey, we can set up a payment plan. Why don't we stop what we're doing right now, and can we take this your bill, and we'll split it over the next 3 months, 6 months, right? So it's not a burden for you. It's a win-win. And when you're ready, we can start back up and make it work, right? But if you don't have time to spend and put into this, then next thing you know, your AR is gonna be like where I was at one point, $60,000. Uh, are there any other questions?
I have one simple question there. I'm just curious what your average, how long do clients stay with you on average?
Clients, over 2 years,
Oh,
three
wow.
years.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. But also keep in mind, like, so there's a few things like it's based on the service that we offer, but it could very well be for you, for anyone else too. We've had I have a client that's been with me for over 10 years. Okay. It's a small landscaping, well, not small anymore. They're doing like huge like government contracts now. But a landscaping company. And our service on our web agency side, we strictly just do web design development work, and everything else we outsource. And the funny thing is that our clients, they've fired over the years, they fired, let go of all these other vendors, but they kept us. Okay. And I ask them, hey, why did you keep us? Right. It's like, oh, well, we're consistent. We're on the ball. Whenever I have a question, your team responds, and I know you guys take care of me, right? And if I try to do all this by myself, I would have been one of the vendors that have been like let go. I would want to fire myself. Okay. So that's how I'm able to keep long-term clients. And then another thing too, we went from project based to and we still have a lot of projects, but we always upsell to a monthly plan. So for us in the website world, we would sell, let's say, a project. A project might be like $8,000 to $12,000, and then a monthly recurring would be like hosting, maintenance and hosting, and that might be about $300 to $400 a month. It may not seem much, um, but here's what it does: it maintains that relationship, and we continue to build on that, because with like website and marketing in general, it's not like a one and done thing, right? Businesses change, the marketing changes, strategy changes, and as soon as that changes, they'll need our help. So because we stay in the loop, our CSMs follow up on a monthly basis, there's that consistency. And it's the customers that have bought from you are the ones that will most likely much easier to buy from you again versus some brand new customer, right? So sometimes once you start building your customer base, it's better to focus on your loyal customers. Think of it, the 20/80 rule, right? So you want to spend your big part of your time on the 20% of your amazing customers that cover 80% of your business, and invest and help them grow. And then naturally, they're going to start referring you to even more clients, and but still, you're still doing the marketing piece, but you got to scale out, right? So that's why, like, we're able to, on average, like, our clients are 2+ years with us.
That's crazy. That makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. If you have any questions in the future, feel free to shoot me a message in HCU. I'm there, and look forward to seeing everyone next Friday for our next session. All right, thank you.